מרחק של מטר, כיצד אני מקפץ בלי הבחנה, כל נגיעה הכי קטנה, ואת עושה לי חשק, היכן אני שבגללך אני בלי הכרה. היי לי למלכה ואני העבד, את אחת ויחידה, מה שתאמרי פקודה, ואשכב על אבן ואהיה לך אדמה. עד אלייך לא נוח לי לבוא, עד אלייך רחוק מדי, עד אלייך לא נוח לי לבוא, עד אלייך. כך אני זוכה לאט, יורד על הברכיים, מתחנן רק תני לי עוד מבט. אם תלכי לא תדעי, בואי איתי למים, שם אפשר לחיות לאט. בואי איתי.
איך הלב שלי עדיין כאילו לא נגעתי בו שנים,
מירי איתנו?
ושורף לי אז אני צועק, נופל ומכסה את הפנים, וזה פשוט לראות כמה שניסיתי, אני לא הצלחתי לעלות.
רגע.
קהל נכבד, אנחנו מבקשים מכל מי שעומד במעברים לשבת בבקשה עכשיו. אנחנו מתחילים. תודה. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We are starting the evening now. Thank you.
mystery. Stand with me, look into my eyes and see. People go away but never say goodbye. Stumbled through the moon tonight, took my light. Everything is black and white. Who's the fool who told you boys don't cry? Hours and hours and flowers. Life is no game for the cowards. Why the time goes? Why every day I'm losing my mind, holding on in this mysterious ride, dancing in the storm. We got nothing to hide. Take me home and leave the world behind. Baby, promise me that never again. I'm still wet from this October rain. October rain. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Living in a fantasy, ecstasy. Everything is meant to be. Wish you best, but love will never die. Hours and hours of flowers. Life is no game for the cowards. Why as time goes? Why every day I'm losing my mind, holding on in this mysterious ride, dancing in the storm. We got nothing to hide. Take me home and leave the world behind. Baby, promise me that never again. I'm still wet from this October rain. October rain. Ooh, ooh, October rain. לא צריך מילים גדולות, רק תפילות. אפילו אם קשה לראות, תמיד אתה משאיר לי אור אחד קטן.
שלום, welcome. ערב טוב לכולם. Welcome to the main event of the International Conference for Combating Antisemitism.
ברוכים הבאים לאירוע המרכזי של הכנס הבינלאומי למאבק באנטישמיות.
עופר חדד, נעים מאוד לחלוק איתך את הבמה הערב.
Same here. Thank you, Miri Michaeli. It's an honor to share the stage with you tonight. And thanks to all of you who came to be here. We know that some of you traveled from afar to be here with us tonight, all the way from the United States of America, Europe, Argentina, South Africa, and Australia.
We're gathering at the meaningful time as we're still coping with our new reality of post-October 7th. This is true both in Israel and throughout Jewish communities in the diaspora.
בהחלט. ובמציאות הזאת, שאחרי ה7 באוקטובר, עלינו לשאול שאלה אחת פשוטה, ישנה, אבל כזו שצריכים לשאול מחדש, מהי אנטישמיות?
Antisemitism is a strange, too inferior and too powerful simultaneously.
אנטישמיות זה כשאתה באמת משוכנע שמדינה בגודל של ניו ג'רזי היא יכולה להוות האיום הגדול ביותר על שלום העולם.
Antisemitism is when you believe that every country has the right and obligation to protect its citizens. Every country besides Israel.
אנטישמיות היא כנראה השנאה היחידה שחוזרת לאופנה בכל דור ודור, כל פעם בתירוצים חדשים, עם חברים חדשים, אותה שנאה ישנה.
And anti-Semitism is why the song we just heard, October Rain, was blocked on its way to Eurovision and forced to change its name to Hurricane because apparently simply acknowledging the month in which the attack happened is considered more offensive than the attack itself.
ואתם יודעים, גם לקראת האירוויזיון שהתקיים השנה, ישראל תישא שוב בגאון את המסר שאנחנו לא נפסיק לשיר. שמי שרצה לגדוע את חייהם ואת קולם של המבלים במסיבת הנובה, יראה אותם על הבמה בבאזל, כשהזמרת ושורדת המסיבה הנוראה הזו, יובל רפאל, תייצג שם את מדינת ישראל. למרות מה שהיא עברה, מגיע. ודי מדהים ודי מתסכל לגלות, שלמרבה הצער גם השנה נשמעים קולות של so called עיתונאים בכירים, אייקונים אירוויזיוניים, אפילו מוסדות בינלאומיים רשמיים שמשדרים מסרים ותכנים נגד יהודים וישראלים ונגד ההשתתפות שלהם בתחרות. גם באירוע הזה שמבקש לגשר בין תרבויות, יש מי שמתעקשים להמשיך ולהשמיע את אותו פזמון ישן וצורם של שנאת יהודים.
Absolutely. And that's why we are here tonight, to amplify the truth, to remind the world what really happened, to be a voice for our hostages who are still being held in the darkness, and to strengthen all those fighting anti-Semitism around the globe.
From beneath the ruins, a new reality was born. Until October 7th and after. There are many languages in the world, but the silence of a soldier carrying his wounded brother on a battlefield needs no translation. After 3,000 years of remarkable achievements, marked by relentless persecution, pogroms, and the Holocaust, rising from the ashes isn't just a legacy, it's our burden and our promise.
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל. היא מדינת ישראל.
Like a flower breaking through scorched earth, like truth forcing its way through the lies. But while the world fabricates convenient truths and distorts reality, there are ambassadors of truth who dare to speak up, confront reality head-on, and stand against injustice.
Israel is a beacon of light in a sea of Islamic darkness.
We are not all right when we see young girls pulled from their home and dragged through the streets, when we still have hostages.
And that what Israel has been up against is not just a people of death, but a cult of death. A cult which wishes to annihilate an entire race, and which, after dealing with that race, has made very clear what it wants to do with Christians, everyone in Britain, everyone in America, and everyone else next.
Are you filming it? I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes, and I hope you guys post that.
Does anyone doubt if the Klan were on college campuses terrorizing African American students that we would see the FBI there, that we would see prosecutors there, that we would see federal funding cut off to universities? Of course we would, and we should.
Is calling for the genocide of Jews violate code of conduct?
It is a context-dependent decision. It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
En esta misma casa, sistemáticamente se ha votado en contra del Estado de Israel, que es el único país de Medio Oriente que defiende la democracia liberal.
So we are very much and clearly in favor of the right of Israel to defend itself and do the necessary measures not to happen again.
The trash can of history, it is filled with those who have tried and failed to destroy the Jewish people. Israel Chai. Thank you.
What we have witnessed is an all-out attack on the very existence of a Jewish state in the Jewish homeland. I want to salute the Israeli people for meeting this trial with courage and determination and unflinching resolve. They have been strong.
In the age of social media, the front lines now stretch far beyond the battlefield. The responsibility and privilege of defending the truth is in our hands because we, every single one of us, are its ambassadors.
animists insist that they are not anti-Semitic. They're just anti-Zionists. Let's be clear about what they're really saying. There cannot be a Jewish state. Or in other words, Jews are the only nation that doesn't have the right for self-determination. Or maybe simply, Jews should not exist in any form. You see, totally different, a masterclass in gaslighting. If they claim to be only anti-Zionists and not anti-Semitic, how do they explain the murder of an American-born Jewish rabbi, a longtime peace activist, not so long after October 7th, or the sexual assault of a 13-year-old Jewish French girl by her ex-boyfriend and his friends after October 7th? These attacks and many more target individuals for their Jewish identity alone. October 7th has forced our generation to redefine our identity. This generation has many voices. One voice belongs to Akiva. He was born in Dimona, raised in a religious home, studied in yeshiva, served in Golani, and built his unique path with a voice that opens hearts and lyrics that reach the soul. His words are rooted in Jewish spirit, in love, in pain, in faith. I'd like to dedicate the next song to all our allies who stand against false narratives, ensuring our 3,000-year-old story is told with truth and courage. Since it's in Hebrew, I'll first translate just one verse. As long as you remember how to dream, you're a winner. As if there's no tomorrow to redeem, just hold on for today. As long as you remember how to dream, you're a winner. Fly as high as you can. You have it all. You know. Please welcome Akiva.
ערב טוב. Good evening, ירושלים. עוד לא תספר את הסיפור שלך, יש לך אחד יפה. גם כל הכאבים והחולשות שלך הפכו אותך אחד כזה, שלא מפחד ליפול, שלא מפחד לגדול. תו לתו נגן את הניגון שלך, יש לך אחד יפה. תרקוד כאילו העולם שר בשבילך, תראה הלב כבר מתרפא, ורק אל תפחד ליפול, רק אל תפחד לגדול. כל עוד לא הפסקת לחלום, אתה מנצח, כאילו אין מחר לחיות היום, תחזיק רק היום. כל עוד לא הפסקת לחלום, אתה מנצח, תעוף הכי רחוק שאתה יכול, כי יש בך הכל. קח בכחול צייר את הציור שלך, כי יש לך אחד יפה, ואין שום דבר שיעצור אותך, תפליג לאן שרק תרצה, ורק אל תפחד ליפול, רק אל תפחד לגדול. וכל עוד לא הפסקת לחלום, אתה מנצח, כאילו אין מחר לחיות היום, תחזיק רק היום. כל עוד לא הפסקת לחלום, אתה מנצח, תעוף הכי רחוק שאתה יכול, כי יש בך הכל. תודה רבה.
Keep it going for Akiva, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it going. How we feeling, Israel? How we doing? My name is Ami Kozak, and I am a comedian and Israel advocate. It's so great to be here tonight. So great to be here with all of you. I think one of the best ways to combat anti-Semitism is to laugh. That's what we do as Jewish people. Am I right? We laugh in the face of anti-Semitism. We find light in the darkness. We find humor in the darkness. So we're going to have some fun, okay? I know the day's just flown by, but here we are. Okay. It is true. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. It seems like old conspiracy theories are back. Crazy people out there are making wild, baseless claims that Jews are holding exclusive gatherings to meet with world leaders and discuss agendas. Kind of like we just did today. No, but they're also saying we're meeting in secret with world elites. We're not meeting in secret with world elites. We do it right out in the open, right? Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, give it up for our minister, ladies and gentlemen. They say we look alike, my little doppelganger. Round of applause for our Christian advocates for Israel. Where are the Christians at in the house? Round of applause. Thank you so much. The Jewish relationship to the Christians is interesting because, like, for us Jews, our relationships to Christians, like, we think it's entirely platonic, but they think it's going somewhere. We're keeping them in the friend zone, you know? Love being in Israel. The problem is, after 9 years of yeshiva day school education, my Hebrew is terrible. And I know that because when I land in Israel, you know, the very first thing you hear is that Israeli PA system. And I don't catch anything, maybe like 2 or 3 words. Walking through the airport, right? My wife's like, what did it say? I was like, I think the bathrooms in Israel have electricity. Very high tech. Love traveling to Israel, and I always fly El Al, the official airline of the Jewish people. El Al, you guys fly El Al? Yes, I love flying El Al because the very first person you meet at the airport when you fly El Al is the El Al interrogator. Very attractive woman. Looks like she was on the last season of Fauda. She comes up to us, me and my family, right, for that interrogation. So hot. She's like, Shalom. Ivrit, Anglit, she knows. You pack your own bags or somebody pack for you? I only ask, you know, because somebody could put a bomb in the family. Somebody could put a bomb in the bag. We don't know. We don't know. This your family? Everyone here together? I only ask because somebody could put a bomb in the family. We don't know. Can you imagine going on a date with an El Al employee? You pick this restaurant or somebody pick for you? Then you get to Israel, you get to the Israeli hotel. You guys know, Israeli customer service. It's not quite the same as American or international customer service, right? When you go to the front desk of any American hotel, they always answer every question the same way. No problem. No problem. Can I get some pillows for my room? No problem. No problem. You go to the front desk of an Israeli hotel and ask for anything? No promises. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I need some towels for him. In Israel, they're so rude. They don't give you the finger. They give you the whole hand. No promises. No promises. But, you know, it's a challenging time in Israel. Round of applause for our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, for his inspiring words, for opening for me tonight. Thank you, Prime Minister. Look, I know Bibi has his detractors, he has his supporters, but I like Bibi for one reason, and one reason only. Bibi speaks English. And as an American Orthodox Zionist Jew, the only thing I care about in my Israeli leaders is that they speak the English. Because when you have to defend Israel on the world stage or in hostile press interviews, you want Bibi. Am I right? We've all seen it. Some BBC reporters like, Prime Minister Netanyahu, how do you defend Israel's actions in this current campaign? And Bibi gets up there and responds,
I disagree with the premise of your question entirely. When it comes to defending the state of Israel, we will defend ourselves tirelessly, vigorously, relentlessly, supercalifragilisticexpialidociously. And we will not sacrifice the security of our people, even though our enemies are willing to sacrifice theirs.
Thank you, Bibi. That is what we need. Am I right, people? How do you defend the protests in the streets against you, Prime Minister? And Bibi responds,
this is an example of our robust democracy at work. Robust, that's a good word, robust. If we do not undergo these judicial reforms, our laws will become ossified. Ooh, ossified. Who says that? Only Bibi. We will not abrogate. I don't even know what abrogate means, but I use it. Great word. We will defend our democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East.
Thank you, Bibi. That's what we need. That is what we need. Do you guys remember when Ehud Barak was the Prime Minister of Israel? In hostile press interviews? Prime Minister Barak, how do you defend Israel's actions in this current campaign?
Listen, we don't want to war, but we have to war, so we war. It's not nice. Boom, boom, whoopsie daisy, oopsie goopsie. It's not nice. We don't want to, we have to. Boom. It's not nice. I know.
Can you guarantee a humanitarian corridor in the Gaza?
Listen, we try to make, but no promises.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll leave you with this, guys. You know, had some great world leaders speaking today. Round of applause for my president, Donald J. Trump, for his support for Israel and the Jewish people. I know he couldn't be here, but I brought the next best thing.
Look at this crowd. Great crowd, millions and billions of people here tonight, folks. It's so great. Minister of the Diaspora Affairs, we love that. Amikai, we call him. Great guy, diaspora. I didn't even know that word until tonight. Melania's sister's name is Diaspora. Did you know that? Diaspora, we call her. She's beautiful. Ambassador David Friedman is here. Where's Ambassador David Friedman? Where is he? He moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and we love that. I wanted to build 5 more embassies. He said, no, can't do that. I wanted to build one at the Western Wall with a bunch of hotels calling it the best Western Wall. That's what I wanted to do. And you know, I hid my documents in the Kotel right there. All of my hidden documents, they're all the little papers now. That's why they clean them out. That's why they do that, folks. That's what they do.
Trump is so good for the Jewish people. He's so good for the Jewish people. Sometimes I'm convinced that Donald Trump is Jewish. I really do. I really think he might be Jewish, and I like to imagine what it would be like for Donald Trump as a bar mitzvah boy giving his bar mitzvah speech. Donald Trump bar mitzvah speech.
Great to be here at my bar mitzvah. Millions and billions of people here tonight, folks. Great people on my mother's side, on my father's side. Very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides. Last week at the shul, they had Levi Goldstein. He didn't have the numbers. What a loser. Levi Goldstein got 1 aliyah. I did Shacharis, Mincha, Musaf, the whole thing. I have the best words. And the food at my bar mitzvah is amazing. Last week at the shul, they were eating the dogs and eating the cats. And in Israel, they have a real cat problem. You know that, right? We're going to send some Haitian migrants to Israel. They're going to take care of that. Remember that. Thank you all for coming. It's a great time to have bar mitzvahs. It's a great time for the Jewish people. Tonight, we are making Israel, the Jewish people, and America great again, folks.
Thank you so much. My name is Ami Kozak. You guys have been great. Thank you.
Nice singing.
Thank you, Ami. Thank you, Ami. And they're singing, Miri. But I want to go back to the song that we heard before, Akiva's song, with the amazing words, You have it all, או בגרסה העברית שלנו, יש בך הכל.
יש בך הכל.
יש בך הכל.
יפה. I hope you followed the translation. This song, it's really not just a song. It's a call for action. An invitation for everyone to stand up for the truth and share their story.
Yeah, but you know that the question is, can people really share their stories? Can you always play your own melody, share your truth, or even just be yourself? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. Depends on the context.
Exactly.
How many students are here tonight? I know that we invited some students
not from
here.
Hebrew U. US, Europe. Hands up.
Nice.
Oh, nice group over there. A few over here.
I know that we invited some students who have been combating anti-Semitism bravely on campus for the last year. Eyal Yakovi, Bella Ingbar, and Eden Yadgar. Are you guys here? Hi, please rise. Please stand up.
We need some light over there. Make them suffer from the same spots. The three over there, we want to see you. How are you guys? Thank you for being with us. Thank you for coming all the way from the United States. Eyal, I want to begin with you, and I want to ask you, in general, what can you share about the way that you felt a year and a half that we felt here in Israel, there, as a Jewish student?
Thank you so much for having me. I want to begin by saying that us three are definitely brave on college campuses, but the real bravery comes from our soldiers, from Tel Aviv, from the hostage families. And as American Jewish students, every single day we demand that the hostages come home and that our soldiers also come home safe as well.
Amen.
Amen.
As a college student, when you have family in Israel and when you hear your classmates and professors taking to the streets and calling for the genocide of Jews, waving Hamas flags, starting encampments, ensuring that every single step that a Jewish student takes, someone's watching over their back, making sure that they feel as uncomfortable as possible, it's scary. With that being said, Jewish students today have never been prouder of who they are, prouder of their shared ancestry, and prouder that the eternal Israel, the eternal right to a Jewish homeland, has been established and is powerful and is safe. And we, again, demand the hostages be brought home. And for every hostage poster that's brought down, we put up an extra 10.
Wow.
I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you. Bella, thank you so much for being with us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Can you pinpoint that moment when you realized anti-Semitism was surging on campus?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Bella. I go to NYU in New York City. I'm a senior. I'm graduating this upcoming May. And I have to say, unfortunately, it was immediately after October 7th. It was the morning of October 8th, as Simchat Torah was still going on. I'm an observant, modern Orthodox Jewish woman, and I was met with flood of Instagram messages by people that I was friends with, my peers in my classes, who were attending the largest pro-Hamas rally in New York City on October 8th. It was not even a protest, it was a celebration, because bodies were still being found in the kibbutzim surrounding Gaza. And I remember seeing this, and I was thinking to myself, I have not received a single message of sympathy or anyone to grieve with from the groups on campus that I was a member of. And I joined these groups on campus to kind of break out of my Jewish bubble that I had been in growing up in a modern Orthodox Jewish community. I'm actually in a sorority that I've dropped because instead of contacting me with messages of sympathy and grief and to check in on me for my family here in Israel who are fighting in this war, I was told that, quote, I need to separate my identity from the conflict because I am too tied to a controversial issue. And I responded, my identity is tied to this controversial issue. I am Jewish, and my Zionism is an inextricable part of my Jewish identity. Wow. And so, unfortunately for Jewish students like the three of us standing up here, and we're just a fraction of the Jewish students who are fighting this fight on our college campuses, it was truly in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, in the mere hours following the attack. But the mobilization was so quick that this was seemingly simmering underneath the surface for so long, and unfortunately it took this attack to bring it to the forefront.
Thank you. And Eden, thank you so much for being with us. What was the most effective way, in your opinion, from your experience, to combat hatred?
The most effective way to combat the tsunami of hatred we've seen on American campuses and across the world is by doing what everyone in this room is doing, showing up and speaking out. Because we do not have the privilege of staying silent. We do not have the privilege of staying silent because we are Jewish. The courage and the consistency of the fight from my classmates at Columbia University, at NYU, at Penn, and at campuses across America is beyond inspiring to me and should be to all of us across the world. We are fighting in the court of public opinion in the media. We are fighting in the courts. The three of us are actually all suing our universities for violating our civil rights.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
And we are fighting in the halls of Congress. And because of this courage, by my classmates standing next to me and by my classmates and Jewish peers across the United States, we are ensuring that there are federal investigations and that funding is being withheld or revoked from universities that violate the civil rights of Jewish students.
Wow.
And we will not be silent.
Wow.
But you know, Ayala, I guess that when you went to, when you decided to go to Penn, you probably didn't go there because you had any plan to sue your university.
The only reason.
And I want to ask you, what brought you specifically to Penn in your case?
Penn, for me, is a family school. It's where my grandfather, my mother, my older brother went, and it's a place that is nicknamed Jew Penn, or the Juniversity of Pennsylvania. And what went from a 40% acceptance, 40% of the Jewish population, to now a 9% Jewish population at the school. And so either Jews have become significantly dumber in the past 2 decades, or the school is intentionally discriminating against Jews in the admission process.
And did any of them experience anything similar to what you faced there as a Jewish student in the past year?
Thank God, no. And I think Jews in the diaspora at large have been living through a golden age of prosperity, of being able to get the opportunities that those that survived the Shoah only dreamed of. And I think when we talk about, specifically in Israel, the war, we talk about a 7-front war. We have an 8th front, which is in the court of public opinion, and we have a 9th front, which is for the soul of the Jewish people, that every day they try to tear us down with a hostage video or another terrorist attack. And I think, speaking to my cousin who serves in the IDF, there's this idea of we are the generation of our grandparents. We are the ones who fought for the war of attrition, and this is the time that we rise up. And we're here as Jewish students to say we are the generation of Jews in diaspora who reflect on the thoughts of Natan Sharansky and Herzl and say that we are not cowards. We will stand up and we will defend the Jewish people, whether it be in Israel or in the diaspora. And while you fight here by land, air, and sea, we'll fight in the classrooms, we'll fight in the courtrooms, and we'll fight in the media.
Wow. Ofer, isn't it amazing? I have to say, listening to you makes me so happy. This is our future. But I want to ask you.
After you're becoming sad from the stories, you're becoming a little happier.
Yeah, for sure.
The year is 2025. I didn't want to hear these stories.
No, of course not. Of course not.
I didn't want to hear any Jewish student.
But I do want to ask you
something like this.
I'll ask you, Bella and Eden. Did anything change since October 7th regarding your connection to your Jewish identity, with your connection to Israel?
Sure. So I actually am the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors. I was raised with an immense sense of Jewish pride that we stand up and we fight. And I feel that I've been given a seat at the table that my grandparents, in Poland and in Germany did not have. And I'd be remiss if I did not take advantage of that opportunity and speak out against the injustices against the Jewish community. And I also think on our college campuses, I think we resort often to defending Israel through political arguments and through kind of talking points. I think we need to come back to that inextricable link that Jews have to this land. This is the land of our people. This is the home of the Jewish people. We are indigenous to Israel. How dare anybody say otherwise? We are an indigenous people. We deserve to be here. And I think that all college students need to remember this fact. They need to bring this with them to the arguments on college campuses, and this should embolden us to stand up for our rights as Jews, but also for our homeland here in Israel. And I also want to take a moment and thank the brave 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are younger than me, my age, out on the front lines wielding weapons, putting their lives on the line for my identity, for my heritage, for my family, and for the Jewish people, so our story and our history can continue. You inspire me every single day. You make my job easier. You inspire me every single day to get up, to fight, and I'm just so incredibly, incredibly appreciative. So thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.
That was beautifully said, per usual, Bella. If I could just add, we are Jews before anything else, and we are so proud to be Jewish. But we also have the privilege of being American. The fight against anti-Semitism on college campuses like Columbia, where I have the privilege of going to school, or, you know, the displeasure, depending how you look at it, is really the fight for Western civilization. Because what starts on our college campuses doesn't end on our college campuses, just like what starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. My family fled religious persecution in Iran on the eve of the Iranian Revolution. They fled because they were Jewish and were driven out of their homeland because of it. But the protests that brought on the Islamic Republic of Iran, the biggest threat to Israel and to Western civilization today, began on college campuses. And it is our moral imperative as Jews, but as human beings that care about the soul of America, the soul of Israel, and the future of Western civilization, that we do not stay silent, that we stand up and speak out with all of our might. Because this future is not tomorrow, it's today, and it's our responsibility to fight for it.
Bella, Eden, Eyal, thank you so much. Thank you so much for every word, and thank you for being here with us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So what do we do? How do we fight back against this wave of campus anti-Semitism?
Yeah, you know, there are those, as we heard, who refuse to stay silent, who won't let this moment pass without a response. One outstanding leader is here with us tonight, and we want to see him.
He's not just speaking out, he's taking action, standing up to one of the most prestigious universities in the world, holding them accountable for the systematic anti-Semitism taking root on campus.
His name is Shabbos Kastenbaum. Shabbos Kastenbaum is a student activist and the lead plaintiff in the lawsuit against Harvard University, exposing the institutional bias that so many have tried to ignore. He has testified before the Congress, the Knesset, and has become a powerful voice in the international media.
And he too is with us tonight to share what he's seen and done and maybe inspire students and us in what we can do next. Please welcome Shabbos Kastenbaum.
Mr. Prime Minister, Minister Shikli, distinguished guests, especially the ones from Europe, the policymakers, whether they call you far left or far right, you did something that 95% of policymakers don't, and that's come here and stand with the Jewish people. So thank you for being here. In his 1897 inaugural address to the World Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland, Theodor Herzl spoke of an ideology sweeping across the Jewish people. In the school and in the home, he said, An ideal is present before the eyes of the young. The students in the universities are animated by a new spirit. That spirit, argued Herzl, was the fulfillment of the greatest act of decolonization in human history, the indigenous Jewish people returning to their homeland. Herzl recognized the pivotal role that young people played in the return. And it is those young people who have faced unimaginable hardships since October 7th. From Oxford University to Columbia University, we young Jews in the last 2 years have had our mezuzahs stolen. We have had our Israeli flags burnt. We have been told to go back to Poland. We have been shut out from our libraries and study spaces. We have been physically assaulted. We have been verbally harassed. We have had swastikas painted outside our dorms. We have had our Hillels and our Chabads vandalized. That is why we filed the lawsuit against Harvard University due to their discriminatory practices against our faith. And although Harvard attempted twice to dismiss our claims with prejudice, they did not succeed, for as of today, we are the first case in American history pertaining to the civil rights violations of Jewish students on a college campus that is actually going to trial. But the story of the Jewish people is not defined by our ideological adversaries. Instead, let me tell you unequivocally that since October 7th, a wave of young diasporic Jews have woken up, and we are simply not going back to sleep. For while it is true that many have taken off the Star of David necklaces, while it is true that many have tucked in the kippot, for every one there are dozens of more who have put them on. Young Jews across the world, myself included, have never felt more attached to the people of Israel, more connected to the land of Israel, and more proud and confident of our Jewish identity. That is why when we pray in our synagogues weekly for the welfare of this land, we do it not merely for the welfare of you, we do it for the welfare of us, because the strength of Israel is the strength of the Jewish people everywhere, now and forever. There is no Israeli Jewry, there is no diasporic Jewry, there is no Ashkenazi Jewry, there is no Sephardi Jewry, there is no Orthodox Jewry, there is no Reform Jewry, there is simply the Jewish people. We are inextricably linked. From when Jacob dreamt of ascending angels in Jerusalem to Joshua crossing from the Jordan, from Maimonides longing to return to Yehuda Halevi's heart being ensnared in the east, from the survivors of gas chambers fighting for a newly minted country to the men and women of the Israel Defense Forces. This land has always been more than a land. This land is an idea that transcends statehood. Israel is not simply a country. Israel is the culmination of our Jewish history and the manifestation of our religion itself. And please mark my words, young diasporic Jewry will continue to fly Israeli flags in our dorms. We will advocate for her in our classroom campuses. We will challenge every false narrative and political propaganda from our professors. We will fight in the court of law. We will fight in the court of public opinion. We will fight in the classroom. We will fight on the campuses. We will fight in the media. We will fight in social media. We will fight in the halls of power. We will fight in the halls of Congress. Why? Because we are the Jewish people. We are simply the greatest story ever told. It is a story that is often tragic, that does not always have the happiest ending, but it is a story that is beautiful and that is miraculous. And I encourage each and every one of you, on behalf of the thousands of diasporic Jews who, in response to being told to go back to Poland, and in response to having their swastikas drawn outside their dorm windows, and in response to having their mezuzot smashed, have put on a bigger kippah, have tucked out their Star of David necklace, have said, this is my people, this is my story, count me in, put me in, coach. Do that, and if you do that, you will be a living, breathing testament to the power and to the promise that Am Yisrael Chai, that not only do the Jewish people live, the Jewish people will always live. And I have a message for my classmates and for my professors, my siblings, Lottie and Aaron, Masya and Emily, Hannah, Asher, and Liam. They live between the river and the sea, and they're not going anywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shabbos. Such a cool name. Good Shabbos.
לאומן הבא שנשמע קוראים דניאל וייס. דניאל הוא בן 29, גדל בקיבוץ בארי, ב-7 באוקטובר, במהלך מתקפת הטרור, הוא איבד את שני הוריו. אביו נרצח, אמו, יהודית, נחטפה לעזה, וגופתה הוחזרה מאוחר יותר. באותו יום נורא דניאל הסתתר במשך שעות ארוכות בממ"ד, בחוסר ודאות בין שמיים לארץ, מוקף במחבלים. לא יודע אם ישרוד את השעות הבאות.
המוזיקה היא חלק בלתי נפרד מהחיים של דניאל מאז ילדותו. את השיר הראשון שלו הוא כתב כבר בגיל 12. ההופעה הראשונה בפני קהל התרחשה כשהוא היה כל כך צעיר, בפני 1,500 אנשים.
מאז 7 באוקטובר כמובן שהמוזיקה קיבלה משמעות עמוקה, שונה בחייו. היא נשארה איתו כעוגן בתוך הסערה האישית, הסערה הלאומית, ובעיקר הפכה למרחב שדרכו הוא מצליח לחקור וגם לבטא החוצה את הכאב, לא רק שלו, אלא של רבים במדינה כולה.
ודניאל מסרב להיות קורבן או לתת לטרגדיה ולכאב להגדיר אותו. דרך המוזיקה הוא מתמודד עם האובדן, הוא ממשיך הלאה. וכשנגמרות המילים, תמיד יש צלילים, לפעמים בטונים, לפעמים בחצאי ורבעי טונים, כמו החיים. ומוזיקה הרי יודעת לחבר בין עולמות.
יהיה מה שיהיה, אני עוד אשנה, אני אגשים את חלומי, נושאי בשורה רעה, מכות עוד גזרה, לא ישנו את מהותי. אני את והאל שלצידי עוד ננצח, לא בגלל הכוח, רק בגלל הרוח הנושבת בגבי, רק בגלל הרוח בתוכי, במוחי, בנשמתי, רק בגלל הרוח בתוכי, בדמי, בנשמתי. וכשיש לי להגיד, אני אפילו בירח ישמעו,
power, but through spirit. These words perfectly capture the essence of our next honored guest and speaker.
She's a prominent author, activist, and public intellectual known for her outspoken views on Islam and women's rights.
She is a best-selling author of influential works, including Infidel, Nomad, Heretic, that chronicle her extraordinary life journey and challenge conventional thinking.
She's a former Dutch parliamentarian who has established herself as a fearless advocate for women's rights globally, particularly those oppressed under fundamentalist interpretations of religion.
She's a distinguished fellow at prestigious institutions, including the Hoover Institution at Stanford University and Harvard Kennedy School's Future of Democracy Project.
She's a woman of profound intellectual courage whose personal journey embodies resilience, transformation, and an unwavering commitment to truth regardless of personal cost.
From her childhood in Somalia, she has become a global voice for human dignity, for human rights, for faith, for freedom, and she's here with us tonight.
She's really amazing. Please welcome to the stage, Mrs. Ayan Khirsi Ali.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start with two small stories since I came here. The first one was at midnight on Tuesday, when coming from the airport to my hotel, I noticed a woman walking alone on the streets. And then farther along, a few minutes later, another woman. And then later, a third. And I remarked on it, and I said, there are women walking alone on the streets. It's nearly midnight. And the driver said, in Israel, women can walk on the streets at any time of day or night. The second anecdote, this afternoon, I was at my hotel when one of the staff members came and said, get up, we're going to the shelter, because the red alert sirens were going on. And sitting in the shelter, I started to think about this society that is willing to defend and to die even so that their women can walk safely on the streets. Congratulations to that. That's a superior culture. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be in Israel for me today. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here in person to express my admiration and my support for you, the citizens of Israel. It wasn't always like this with me. Growing up in Somalia and in Saudi Arabia in the 1970s, and as an Islamist teenager in Kenya in the 1980s, I was taught to hate you. I hated you because it was whispered into my dear little ear as a child. This isn't just an allusion to a line from an old musical condemning American racism. To hate the Jew is an act of worship for many, in fact, most Muslims, and in particular, for all Islamists. Remember, when Egypt's only truly democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, was caught on tape in 2010, urging his followers, I quote, to nurse our children and our grandchildren on hatred for Jews and for Zionists. Not long after this, he described Zionists as bloodsuckers who attack the Palestinians. He called them warmongers and descendants of apes and pigs. To my generation, Gen X, I'm 55 years old, Jew hatred was disseminated in person, at home, in school, on the radio and on television, on videos and in films and in the mosque, on social occasions like in weddings and funerals. It was mostly top-down. People who held positions of authority told us what to think and say and pray with regard to the Jew. You may recall this dialogue on Saudi television 8 years before Morsi's remarks, and it's translated from the Arabic by the Great Middle Eastern Media Research Institute. It's a dialogue between a 3-year-old and a television presenter. The presenter asks the child, "Do you like Jews?" The 3-year-old says, "No." "Why don't you like them?" "Because they're Jews and apes." "Who said this?" "Our God." "Where did he say this?" "In the Quran." The presenter responds approvingly. No parent, he says, could wish for Allah to give them a more believing girl than she. May Allah bless her, her father, and her mother. That's how it used to be in the third world of Arab and Muslim countries. The effort to condition children into hating Jews as part of their daily worship was a united campaign. It was perhaps the only thing most Muslims and their leaders agreed on. In Western societies, the campaigns to fight anti-Semitism that started right after the end of the Second World War were sustained, comprehensive, and very effective throughout the Cold War. My compliments go to the pioneers, the compilers, the curators, the funders, and the tireless activists who envisioned a world with no anti-Semitism. Their slogan was "Never Again," and it was hugely successful as this kind of open, all-consuming hatred of Jews disappeared from mainstream society in the West. Of course, it lived on in the fringes of the far right, the neo-Nazi, and white supremacist circles. However, on the issue of Jew hatred, things have changed in major ways. I'm going to describe 5 of them. First, due to the mass transformative migration to the West that has been underway for decades, the Islamist-driven anti-Semitism has become commonplace in Europe and even in the US. I'm invited to platforms to come and tell my story. 25 years ago, my story of growing up in Somalia, undergoing female genital mutilation, a forced marriage, and then fleeing to Europe and building a life in a small, homogeneous European country was astonishing or exceptional to the Western audiences who were shielded from the world I was born and raised in until my early 20s. But most of those audiences are no longer shielded from the third world. In some ways, now the West has become the third world. Some of the features of the third world, like the civic tension, like the exposure of women and children to harm and exploitation, like poverty, dislocation, whether voluntary or compelled, war or the threats of war, civil or foreign, are a growing concern in places like France, the United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden, Belgium, and others. Second, the internet and new technologies have made it a lot easier to propagate anti-Semitism. For the millennial and Gen Z generations, modern technology has given them the opportunity to be both passive consumers of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and Israelophobia, and active participants as content creators. They can generate fresh content all the time. The growing education levels of Muslims in the West has accelerated the hatred for Jews and for Israel in particular. The democratization of information has unleashed the creativity and the imagination of many Muslims to devote untold hours, often paid, of their time to advancing the most disgusting, false, libelous, and horrific lies about Jews and Israel. They dusted off copies of the Nazi and European literature on anti-Semitism and reimagined it for our time. Now, when the narrative of colonialism is considered the greatest sin of human history, Israel is accused of being the ultimate colonial project. Third, the global Islamist project to revive the caliphate that was abolished in 1924 is now headquartered in the West. After the so-called Arab Spring, when one after the other of autocratic Arab governments were toppled by popular uprisings, those Arab governments that survived the intended revolution understood the role Islamists played in inspiring and organizing the unrest. The Muslim Brotherhood in particular, often secretly working with the Iranian government, was rightly seen as the culprit. In response, the Muslim Brotherhood and all other Islamist groups and individuals suspected of insurrection were banned, imprisoned, defunded, and evicted by the Arab governments that either hosted them or tolerated them in the past. Many of those Islamists relocated to the West, where they found a warm welcome within the ranks of the existing Islamist bases. In Europe and in America, now we have extensive networks of mosques, Muslim schools, Islamic societies, public relations councils, student associations, law firms, political and policy networks run by Islamists, all working incrementally towards their stated goal of conquering the West through nonviolent means, and of course, in the process, defaming Israel, Zionism, and reviving the anti-Semitism we all thought was defeated. Fourth, the Islamists capitalized on the crisis of liberalism, and particularly the progressive end of the liberal spectrum. I recommend you read David L. Bernstein's book, Woke Anti-Semitism: How a Progressive Ideology Harms Jews. In America, the language of victimhood, developed by radical Marxists supposedly to expose the oppression of Black American descendants of slavery, concepts such as systemic oppression, intersectionality, and the binary division of society into oppressors and oppressed, was superimposed on American Jews. Jews are now white, privileged, Zionist, and supporters of an oppressor colonial state. Hamas, on the other end, in progressive circles, is a resistance movement bravely committed to fighting for the liberation of a beleaguered, colonized Palestinian people trapped in an open-air prison and subjected to systematic bombings in order to bring about their genocide. The Hamas rallies you saw on American and other Western campuses and cities in the spring of last year, dressed up as pro-Palestinian protests, are the culmination of more than 2, maybe even 3 decades of incubation and cultivation in education and media institutions in the West. Fifth and finally, I want to touch on the great realignment underway in the West. The political and ideological landscape that used to be based on class and religion on a spectrum from left-wing to right-wing has become meaningless. Today, the prevailing division is one between those perceived to be the elites, the ruling classes of the political, economic, urban, bureaucratic, and elites in the legacy media, versus the working and middle classes, the rural communities, those who attend churches or synagogues and get their information from alternative sources. In America, it's President Donald Trump and his MAGA movement that is now a coalition of former Democrats, white, working, middle, and rural classes, Hispanics, Blacks, and some women. The moderate Democrats are struggling to recapture their party from the progressives led by Bernie Sanders and a very colorful, crazy squad of women. In Europe, the establishment parties on both the center-left and the center-right have lost the credibility they once had. Voters are going in droves to the populist parties. Some of these parties, as in France and Belgium, had anti-Semitic elements in the past. This has changed as I see more and more Jewish voters either considering or openly voting and supporting these parties. Given these 5 elements of mass migration, the age of the internet, the headquartering of Islamism in the West, the crisis of liberalism, and the great realignment underway in the West, we must reassess the existing strategies for fighting anti-Semitism. Strategies that were successful in the past, but are now obsolete or worse, counterproductive. For example, those of us fighting anti-Semitism must take a positive part in the intense conversations underway in the West on the sanctity of national borders, national identity, patriotism, and taking pride in national heritage, traditions, and in national legacy. The old way of fighting anti-Semitism was focused on the ethno-nationalisms of the past that excluded, persecuted, and attempted to annihilate Jews. The emerging national consciousness of today is different. It's one that wants to be like Israel's, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, but not multicultural, and the applied philosophy that has hollowed out European and American institutions and rendered nationhood meaningless. I lived among the Dutch, and I have traveled extensively and repeatedly in Europe. I live in America, and I have traveled extensively and repeatedly in America. And I can tell you that the white populations there are not racist. They are being defamed as you are being defamed. They are not far right. They just want their societies and their way of life back. Here is a great opportunity to find new alliances and strengthen old ones. There are whole categories of citizens who are alienated in their own native countries. The white working and middle classes, women, homosexuals, Christians, and of course Jewish minorities who are beleaguered in these societies. We must consider new ways of fighting the menace of anti-Semitism. We must identify and prioritize the serious threats above the less considerable ones. In my view, the Islamist threat is the most compelling threat. It's multi-generational and it's multinational. It's state-driven and populist. It's theological, political, economical, social, and cultural. In other words, it's total and it's totalitarian. It has developed a well-oiled machine of propaganda that goes by the artificial name of Islamophobia, relying on 1/5 of humanity, exploiting and manipulating the far left, and even seeking and finding resonance on the right and the far right. Say what you will about Islamists, but they tell us repeatedly what's on their minds. We don't need to hire consultants and academics with a PhD on the mysterious, benign intentions of Hamas that we all overlook. We don't need to find super-duper professionals to lay out why ISIS is fond of filming the slitting of the throats of Christians, Alawites, and Muslims who refuse to join their cult, or why the Islamist government of Iran is squandering its GDP on developing a nuclear bomb to wipe Israel off the map. They tell us, and they don't tire of telling us. They shout it, and they punctuate those shouts with Allahu Akbar. They all have websites on which they spell out their intentions. They use every medium of print and broadcast to share their views. They post their objectives on YouTube and on X, formerly Twitter, and on TikTok. They tell us they want the caliphate back. To get there, they want to wipe Israel off the map. They want to destroy the Arab and Muslim governments of today, except, of course, Qatar and Turkey and the Taliban government that help them. They persecute and kill Christians. They shove women out of the public space. They rape, they mutilate, and they maim the infidels, including ex-Muslims and even devout Muslims who disagree with them. It's not only synagogues in Jewish cemeteries that they target. They also deface and destroy churches and the mosques of minorities, Hindu and Buddhist shrines. I want to conclude by saying that today, a majority of humanity is threatened by radical Islam. We are, in fact, all Jews.
Ayan, thank you very much.
Each year, the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism presents its prestigious Shield of Truth, an Israeli award for combating anti-Semitism, an honor bestowed upon individuals who have shown exceptional courage and integrity in fighting for truth and for standing up for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a huge honor to announce this year's recipient, Mrs. Erin Molan.
Yes. To present this important award, I'm pleased to invite the Minister for Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism, Minister Amichai Shikli. Erin Molan has shown extraordinary courage in revealing Israel's reality to the world, despite widespread misinformation and intense pressure. Let's take a look at her steadfast commitment to truth and her fearless stand against the delegitimization of Israel.
Even in Australia, where anti-Semitism is growing by the day, there are people who are beacons of truth and shine like a lighthouse on a stormy night. She's the daughter of an Australian military officer and attended 16 different schools across the world, developing a global perspective that would later define her courage. She built a 20-year career spanning television, radio, and print, becoming a trusted primetime host on Sky News Australia and columnist for the Daily Telegraph. When Hamas attacked Israel, while many media figures remained silent or blamed the victims, she chose the difficult path.
I know without any doubt in my mind who I'm rooting for. And it's not the terrorists who celebrate death, it's the country fighting desperately for life. The world is already going in a very bad direction. If people like me don't speak up, then I worry deeply for what will happen to the world.
Erin Molan faced death threats, harassment, and ultimately lost her position at Sky News Australia, sacrificing her career at its peak rather than compromising her principles.
Do I worry for my safety and that of my 6-year-old daughter? Absolutely. Have we received countless death threats? Specific ones? Yes. I'm not Israeli. I'm not Jewish. It would be easier now for me not to speak. I give you the nod. And let's be real here. It might feel far, far away, but we all have skin in this game. It's a fight for everything that should matter and does. It's a fight for every child, for every human being who believes in life and freedom and hope. So you know what conclusion I come to every single time without fail? Every time I ask myself if I should continue speaking out and making life harder for my daughter and I, the answer is yes, every single time. Why? Well, for the very same reason I sometimes think I should stop entirely. For her, my daughter.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We are honored to give this prize this year to Erin Mulan. I want to share with you a very short lesson that I've heard from Professor Shalom Rosenberg, who passed away a year and a half ago. Professor Shalom Rosenberg said, "Pure goodness never appeared on the face of earth. Pure evil appeared in Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Majdanek. Pure evil chose the Jewish people as its ultimate enemy. As we know, when Hitler, in his will, in 1945, when he's surrounded by the Soviets and the Allies, he's asking the German nation to continue the fight, to continue the war. And you would imagine, continue the fight against the Soviets, continue the fight against the Allies. No, continue the fight against the Jewish people. Shalom Rosenberg said, pure evil chose the Jewish people as its ultimate enemy, and therefore we, the Jews, needs to ask ourselves, how are we the enemies of evil? As it says in our Mekorot, in our sources, Ohavei Hashem Sinura. And I think that, Erin, you resemble the hatred of evil. Erin, you are an enemy of evil, and this is why we chose to give you this award this year, and we are proud of you, and we are proud of your courage to stand and say the truth, and we are all aware of what is happening in Australia this year and since October 7 with the tremendous anti-Semitism that we are seeing. We do not take it for granted. We cherish our friends, and we cherish your courage. Thank you, Erin. Toda. We chose this ancient menorah. It says, a little bit of light repels a lot of darkness. A little bit of truth repels a lot of the lies. Thank you, Erin.
Aaron, it's so good to have you here. Please join me.
Thank you very much. Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it. It's so lovely.
Thank you so much.
And I'm assuming the 100 or so 18-year-olds are going to the pub. So I'm not offended that they left. At least they left before I got up. You just want to join them. Yeah, I am. I'm going straight after. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And as the minister said, really for being such a ray of light in dark times. Aaron is one news anchor and journalist to another. You know, we work in a field where every news story, every item needs to be checked again and again before aired. But unfortunately, we see, especially post-October 7th, that it's not really the case when it comes to Israel.
It's crazy, isn't it, in terms of all of the things that I thought when I was learning how to be a journalist, the things that mattered deeply, and even, say, if you're covering sport, which I did for 15 years, you still wouldn't risk getting it wrong because there would be consequences for that. But I now look at the media landscape and I am horrified by so many different things. even what they choose to omit. So you might argue that, oh no, what we said was right. And an example of that is a network in Australia was covering the hostage exchange for prisoners. And the start of their story on the 6 p.m. news, which is the biggest news program in the country, was this emotional music with this man, a Palestinian prisoner, who was on the shoulders of another man. His mother was crying, and the reporter's narration was something to the effect of, a family reunion, decades in the making, and la, 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 and tears from mum. And, you know, he bombed a bus that killed children. That's completely omitted. So they could say, well, it's true, this is a family reunion, decades in the making, but they don't give you the context. And then you just have outright lies, and the BBC, we know, is, you know, leading the charge in that front. They are appalling in every way. It's crazy. I host an opinion show. Well, actually, I used to. Really good point. It's only been a few months. I hosted an opinion show, so everything I said, thank you so much. Everything I said was my opinion, and it was clearly labelled opinion. Now we have programs that purport to be straight news, in which they should just deliver facts, that are weaving their own narrative in, and it's not the way it should be. And it's not only appalling, but it's dangerous, and it costs more lives.
You know, I looked at this little scene here when you get this beautiful prize from our minister, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, we live in such a twisted world when a journalist gets a prize for speaking the truth. Now, you deserve the prize, but you know what I mean?
Oh.
It's just so wrong in a way.
If you had told me 2 years ago, if you'd said, Erin, there's going to be a terrorist attack like there was on October 7, you are going to come out very publicly, staunchly in support of the victims of that terrorist attack, and you will stand vehemently against the terrorists who carried out those atrocities, and it will put you in the minority, it will be considered controversial, and you will be annihilated online for that. I would have said, you know what, I don't have much faith in the world at the best of times, but there is no chance in hell, and look, here we are. And you're right, all I do is tell the truth, and I might do it in a unique way, or I might have a particular way with words. I'm relatable, I'm quite emotional, but all I do is just state facts and tell the truth, and it's crazy that it should be considered special, and I'm ashamed that it's considered special. I should be one of millions.
You're saying, yeah, definitely. You're saying that now you're a minority, and unfortunately, we Jews, we are accustomed to being minority. How does it feel for the first time?
It's a great question. I've never been part of a minority before in my life. You know what? It's something that I am immensely proud of, to be completely frank with you. I consider it such a privilege to stand with your country and to stand with your people. And I look back through history, and minorities or people that weren't part of a majority were not necessarily always wrong or on the wrong side. And I have zero doubt in my mind that I'm on the right side of this. So if I'm alone, so be it. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I have to live with myself in my head more than I care what anyone else will think or say. So I mean that. It's a real privilege.
Bravo. You know, as I was looking at the video, as a mother, you were talking about your daughter. And I'm sure recent months weren't easy. At some point, maybe you even felt you might be in danger. And as a mother, to keep on doing what you do, knowing that, that's a real risk.
It is, and we've had many, and I like I'm sure so many of you here, it's not special, but many threats to my life and to hers. And I guess I've been in the public eye for 20 years, so I'm used to, you know, being sprayed online. But this is different in that this is the first time in my existence that I've experienced it from people that I might genuinely believe would actually fulfill the things that they promised to do. And we've had police involved, I've had protection, bomb threats, the whole thing, and there have been periods where I've had to give my little girl to her father, and you know, that's very difficult because I share her. I'm a single mum. I share her already. So I question myself constantly, and I reassess constantly as to whether or not I'm doing the right thing, because she is my number one job in the world, to keep her safe, and that hand on heart is the thing that matters to me more than anything else. But I guess I've got half a brain, so I realised that by doing what I'm doing now, I am helping to ensure the world that she will grow up in and live in will be far safer than the world that exists now, or will exist if people like me don't speak up. So it's, yeah, thank you. It's harder now, absolutely. I mean, I hate even complaining, because there are people 10 million times worse off, like you guys who live here, under constant threat. But I feel like it's a short-term pain for hopefully an incredible existence for her down the track, and for every other child.
Amen. How's your Hebrew?
Non-existent. Non-existent.
Okay, we've got time. You have a tutor here if you need.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for standing up despite the hate and sharing your brave and clear voice with the world. You know, Golda Meir once said, when our enemy will love their children more than they hate us, we can begin to talk about peace. We know the biggest problem is not tunnels, but education. So we pray for love, the love for their children, so that we can fulfill the promise we made to our children. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you so much. It means the world. Thank you.
Gorgeous, inside and out.
Erin, Miri, thank you so much. And we have an important message from one of the clearest voices against anti-Semitism on campuses, a woman that we will always remember from the congressional hearing of university presidents, Mrs. Ellis Stefanik.
Thank you, Minister Chikli, for inviting me to speak today and for your important work as Minister for Diaspora Affairs and combating anti-Semitism, and for organizing this important conference. This conference comes at a critical moment in history. On October 7th, the world witnessed the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and in the months since, we have seen anti-Semitism skyrocket to levels never imaginable in our lifetimes. We have watched as those vile acts of terror have been openly celebrated on city streets and college campuses around the world, and an explosion of violence, harassment, and destruction targeting the Jewish people. Now more than ever, we must hold these purveyors of the oldest hatred accountable. Yet far too many have refused to, from heads of state to so-called elite college presidents. For the past 4 years, the failed leadership of the previous administration turned its back on Israel, allowing the moral rot of anti-Semitism to infect once shining institutions. But last November, the American people spoke loudly and clearly, electing President Trump to the White House with a historic mandate. Under President Trump, moral strength and clarity are back in the White House. Nowhere is this moral clarity more evident than President Trump's commitment to combat anti-Semitism and support our most precious ally, Israel. I am honored to join President Trump in this fight, earning his nomination to serve in his cabinet as the United States Ambassador to the United Nations. Together, we are already working to combat the anti-Semites at Turtle Bay and return the UN to its founding mission of peace and security. From the very start of his term, President Trump has made clear that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in any way, shape, or form. He has taken historic and decisive executive actions to crack down on the explosion of anti-Semitic hate. In his first days in office, President Trump signed a historic executive order to combat anti-Semitism using every tool our government has. Fight in Congress against the scourge of anti-Semitism, I promise to bring that same moral truth and clarity, clear moral clarity, to the United Nations. The anti-Semites at Turtle Bay better get ready, because I'm coming. Thank you again to the International Conference on Combating Anti-Semitism for bringing needed attention to this moral crisis. Together and with President Trump's leadership, we will fight anti-Semitism in all forms around the world. God bless you, God bless Israel, and God bless the United States of America.
יש מפרש לבן באופק מול ענן שחור כבד כל שנבקש לא יהי ואם בחלונות הערב אור נרות החג רועד כל שנבקש לא יהי לא יהי לא יהי אנא לו כל שנבקש לו יהי לא יהי לא יהי אנא לו יהי כל שנבקש לו יהי לו יהי לו יהי ישנם ימים ללא מרגוע בם לא ארצה לי נחמה ומוכרח אני לנגוע בעשבים באדמה רק תפילה אשא אוהלי אלי שהשמש תעבור עליי ותראה לי שוב את משעוליי אוהלי אלי רק תפילה אשא שהשמש תעבור עליי ותיקח אותי אל המסע תפילה אשא
בקרוב תזרח השמש נדע ימים יפים אלה הלב נלחם בדאגות כולם יחזרו הביתה נחכה להם למטה הלוואי נדע בשורות טובות כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד אפילו כשקשה לראות כולם ביחד אף אחד פה לא בודד שישרפו המלחמות עם ישראל חי אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים עם ישראל חי בעליות בירידות גם בשעות הכי קשות הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו אז מי יכול עלינו כי אין לנו עוד מדינה תעשה שלום בינינו שמור על ילדינו כי לא עבדה האמונה עם ישראל חי עם ישראל חי
הלוואי ולא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח ומערב הלוואי הלוואי ונחדש ימינו כאן כקדם היידה איפה אתם בנייני האומה?
הלוואי שלא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. Thank you.
And let's remember that even as we are standing here now, there are still hostages in Gaza, suffering under horrific conditions. We, as a people, as a country, as a nation, are not whole without them. Until they'll be back home soon. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand up for Hatikva.
קולות בלבב בנימה נפש יהודי הומיה ולפת מזרח קדימה עין לציון צופיה עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים.
Good night.
תודה לכם.
תודה רבה. תודה רבה לכם.
יש בי אהבה והיא תתעורר ותיגע. יש בי אהבה והיא תנצח. יש בי אהבה